Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2024. It is Wednesday, August the 7th. It is 5:18 Eastern Time p.m. And in case you're curious at the time we're starting, Brandon Ayuk is still a member of the San Francisco 49ers. And also, let's see, I am Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com. And with me, as always, the great, the one and only Alex Kozora, fresh off of another trip out to Saint Vincent College in Latrobe, Pittsburgh Steelers training camp. Alex, happy Wednesday night. How you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. We interrupt this Brandon Ayuk freak out to bring you some actual football and training camp news. Listen, I'm as with bated breath as anybody for Ayuk, but still football, still training camp, and preseason game about 48 hours away.
Yeah, excited about that. Okay, Alex, as we do every time opening up the special edition of the Terrible Podcast, we give a shout out to our sponsor, and that being Touring Plans, touringplans.com. Tell the folks more about Touring Plans.
The only people we talk about more than Brandon Ayuk is Touring Plans, but rightfully so, a longtime sponsor of our Steelers Depot training camp coverage. It's them. It's Len Testa, a great friend of the site. If you have a trip upcoming to Disney World, Disneyland, or Disney Cruise Line, you're planning something with the family this winter, usually a good time here if you're Pittsburgh to get away from the cold weather in November, December. Check out touringplans.com. With them, you'll receive access to a crowd calendar that'll give you the days and times when the parks are the busiest. And so you know when to see and get in the park during their down periods, plans to avoid waiting in lines for hours, insider restaurant reviews, how to save money on tickets, always important if you're bringing out the whole family, and just overall tips to have the best experience possible. So if you're planning that upcoming trip to, again, Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, reach out to Touring Plans at touringplans.com, and we thank them for their continued support of our Steelers Depot training camp coverage.
We certainly do. All right, Alex, housekeeping time. We've kind of wondered with all these people getting nicked up the last couple of days if we might see a transaction pretty soon, and we saw one Wednesday morning. Tell the people what happened there.
Steelers waived injured linebacker Tyler Murray, who was injured in Tuesday's practice. They signed linebacker Easton Gibbs, who was with Seattle. He's out of Wyoming. He will wear number 34 and immediately jumped into team session today, along with Murray, obviously not practicing and, of course, being waived injured. Not practicing on Wednesday were outside linebacker Alex Highsmith with a groin issue that he suffered yesterday. Safety Nate Meters with the hamstring also suffered Tuesday, and Marcus Golden did not practice. He was not even in pads today as he was yesterday. Don't know the issue there. He was on the exercise bike just casually pedaling for a little bit. Players that were rested coming back, just to make note of that: TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Isaac Seumalo. More importantly, a lot of guys coming back that were limited are now full. And so there is still a lot of general health in the right direction ahead of Friday's game. Cornerback Braylon Arnold, tight end Rodney Williams, nose tackle Keanu Benton. Benton might have had some limitation in reps, but he was in team. I'll call him full. DeMarvin Leal, that was good after getting nicked up yesterday. Patrick Queen coming back after missing Friday and Saturday with an injury, and Friday Night Lights also missed the Tuesday practice, was limited yesterday, full today, and Jeremiah Moon also full. And so that was good. And Alfredo Roberts, the tight ends coach, was back after missing yesterday for, I assume, a personal issue.
All right. Did you get who was dinged up today during practice?
Yeah, that's the last part here. One for sure, Braden Fehoko suffered a left arm shoulder injury. I tweeted out a photo, tried to zoom in as much as I could. Not a great shot, but there was a big wrap on that left arm shoulder. Must have happened about midway, maybe the early, 40% portion of practice there. He did not finish. Deshaun Elliott got his hand jammed in a one-on-one drill with Freiermuth. He got it taped up, and then later in a team period, he had an awkward kind of collision with Freiermuth. He got up slow, walked off gingerly, There was a report about a cart. I didn't see him get carted off. I lost track of Elliott after he kind of, shook things off and walked away. He was out there to finish practice, though, so I assume that he's okay. We'll check on him tomorrow, though.
Isn't it funny how we start this thing off and it's just a few names, not necessarily funny, but how annually we start off with just a few names here. You get towards the latter part of this thing and it grows, and you got the comings and the goings list. And then obviously transactions always usually take place of players getting waived, injured, and all. So thank you for catching us up on that. Mike Tomlin, and we're going to talk more about this during the Friday episode of the Terrible Podcast. Mike Tomlin held a morning press conference to help preview the upcoming preseason game against the Houston Texans. We will tell you that he did specifically say that 7 players would not play in that contest. And you want to run down that list?
I'll pull it up here in a second. Alex Highsmith is one of them, I assume because of the injury. Isaac Seumalo, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, also said Patrick Queen won't play. Same with Russell Wilson, and I believe that's the 7.
Yeah, the ones I have, I think that matches you. Wilson, Fitzpatrick, Watt, Hayward, Highsmith, Seumalo, and Patrick Queen. And then obviously we'll see what the health of the rest of. So this list will probably grow by the time kickoff happens. That's usually the case, right?
He did confirm, though, that Minkah had an injury, because he said a couple days ago, we're just giving him some time off to allow others to get reps. I knew he had something small. You don't miss 4 straight days of team unless you got something you're dealing with. He's fine. Minkah was in team today, but just to put a bow on that, he was dealing with a little something.
All right. Eagle eye Alex, as usual. All right, Alex, let's start with the quarterback position. And did Russell Wilson take a slight uptick more again today?
I haven't tabulated, maybe a slight uptick, and this continual slight upticks upon slight upticks. From a rep standpoint, I would say that him and Justin Fields pretty evenly split first team reps overall. There were times maybe Wilson would come in and get the first 2, then Fields the next 2. Typically Fields would go back in. I'd have to check if Wilson was going to go back in or did go back in after, getting those initial reps there. He felt a little bit of rust and just trying to build some chemistry, which is to be expected after missing some time and being limited. A couple of passes that weren't on the same page. There was 1 in 7 shots to Van Jefferson. Jefferson didn't get his head around in time on an out route. The pass missed him. There was a sideline throw to either Jefferson or Pickens that missed fairly badly, really not a catchable football. Nothing to be alarmed about, but there's going to be some rust to knock off for Wilson.
All right, Mike Tomlin, let's see, they released the depth chart last night, and obviously Russell Wilson was number 1, Justin Fields was number 2, still Russell Wilson in the pole position. Mike Tomlin said during his press conference something to the effect that, this is, he says, very much is a competition. What happens in a stadium is weighted heavier than what happens in a practice setting because it's more game-like. And that was in reference to a quarterback competition. Do you buying any of that?
I mean, they're splitting reps right now, and I think Tomlin is all about promoting competition. So the more that he can at least have the rhetoric of competition, the better I think guys respond to that and the room will rise. And so I'm still in the mindset that, Wilson is more pace car than pole position where he cannot be passed. But, we'll continue to watch and see how Fields does inside stadiums. I imagine he's going to have a pretty good performance in this opener against Houston, facing probably I know Houston will play some of their starters, but I imagine there'll be backups in there and no game planning, and Fields' natural talent will win out. So again, maintaining my posture that Wilson will be the guy, but we'll watch and wait and evaluate.
All right. Anything else to add from the quarterback position today?
Nothing dramatically. Fields was fine. Kyle Allen was fine. John Rice Plumlee will definitely get some return work. He was out there with the starting kick returner starting the kickoff period today.
You said that almost from the time he was signed.
Yeah, I mean, I still go back to I think he should have been a wide receiver instead of a quarterback, but he's gotten so much work there, even in some of the special teams sessions early. Before practice really gets going, he's working not with the quarterbacks, but working return lines. So, I don't know how he'll do. I don't know if it's going to be just kicks or just punts. Some of the game flow will depend on that. Probably kicks for sure. But, we're going to get some reps from Plumlee doing non-quarterback like things.
They're going to get their $30-something thousand signing bonus out of them.
They're shaking John Reese Plumlee for every dollar they can get.
All right. Running back, what you have?
Just overall, the last 2 days, Dave, big picture, the running game has been strong in these live tackling. They were in pads today, so you get a couple of run sessions where it is go to the ground tackling. And I think the O-line in general has really took it to the front seven. And Najee Harris has had some tough runs. You got even Dejon Edwards, we don't talk about much. Few carries. He had a big 15-yard run, but a huge hole to run through. Shamplin had a couple of decent runs. Jonathan Ward making hay. So overall, really just kind of feel like big picture, the O-line has created running lanes for the run game the last 2 days.
All right. That we'll see who plays, obviously of Harris and Warren in this game on Friday. If they get any work, I wouldn't imagine it'd be a ton, but we'll definitely be watching those also rans. And I got I'm excited to see Jonathan Ward in a Steelers uniform. Primarily, I think it sounds like, according to your reports, he's probably be the next guy after, obviously, Harris, Warren, and Cordell Patterson.
Yeah, and obviously Patterson's not going to play in this one. Him and Dean Lowry still ramping things up on the side, but neither are going to be playing in this one, Lowry or Patterson. Yeah, I would guess that Ward will be, like you said, next man in. It's still going to be different guys, rotations of him and P. Ryan and Shamplin, with Edwards kind of back of the pack there. But yeah, I think Ward will be next man up, and he's had a good camp.
All right, wide receiver. Saw some Calvin Austin III tweets out of you, I think, today.
Which was great to see. It's been a relatively quiet camp for Austin, despite all the spring buzz that he had during OTAs and mini camp. And it's not been a bad necessarily camp for him, but it's just been quiet. Not many targets, not many opportunities. I know I didn't get to see the play, but I know that he had a nice catch in 7-on-7s, and Russell Wilson gave him some props and credit for that right after the play. And then in team, one of the late team periods, working red zone situational football, really good combat catch back of the end zone against Beanie Bishop, and he jumped up in the air and got his feet down. So nice to see him make some of those catches kind of outside his frame. And so, it was good to see Calvin Austin get involved and make some, I think, big time catches today.
How about a Des Fitzpatrick update? Been a couple days since I think we talked about him.
Yeah, he's been better. I mean, he had, I think, tough start to camp, and it's been relatively steady and consistent since. In the 1v1 competition period, he got a step on cornerback Kalen Barnes and burned him deep downfield. So you see a little bit of speed there from Fitzpatrick, but really want to see him inside stadiums as that gunner. Really want to watch for who those starting gunners are going to be, because that's still really his path to making the 53. It's less so as a receiver. It's really going to be as a teamer.
All right, how did Brandon Ayuk look? Oh, wait.
Man, that's the number of questions I get. Is Alex Highsmith out there? Is Calvin Austin out there? Where's Omar Khan? They're all out there right now. If somebody's not there and that's sending up an alarm bell to me, I promise I will let you guys know if they're not on the field.
Absolutely. All right, tight end. Hot Rod made a play today, I think.
He did a lot of yak for Hot Rod. He got open, maybe some defensive miscommunication, not entirely sure, but he was definitely open and took a 10-yard kind of out route or crosser down the left sideline for a solid 30-yard gain. So it's good that he's working full and not just limited, and he was in pads today. I know that shoulder's been an issue, might be pushing through, but he's in a position where he's got to push through it. He's a guy that's trying to make this team and has an opportunity to make this team, but you're not going to do that not practicing against a vet that Arthur Smith knows and Michael Pruitt. So that was good for Rodney Williams. And, I imagine he's going to also be contributing heavily on special teams in this game.
How much have you seen Connor Hayward, if any, line up in a true fullback role in the backfield?
A handful of snaps. He did it once or twice today. Sometimes it's off a motion. Will he be aligned Y off or something and then get motioned into the backfield, or even sometimes split out, slot or wide and then go into the backfield. I couldn't put a number on it, maybe 10 or so times throughout all of training camp, but there's been a smattering of snaps. Certainly Jack Coletto has been the primary true fullback, and that's really been his role consistently, but Hayward has gotten some time.
Same with Michael Pruitt?
No, Pruitt, I think maybe has done it once, but he's really not been in that fullback capacity. It really has been true wide tight end type stuff.
All right.
And just a note on Pat Freiermuth, he had a big 37-yard catch. He's really gotten good at some of those, not that you always want to see it, but their throws really outside his frame, but those juggling catches where he tips the ball up and is able to have the body control to bring it down. He's just done that routinely and had that big catch today was throw maybe a little out in front. He puts a hand up knocks it kind of down and then brings it in. So his body control and concentration has been really impressive this camp.
Anything update on Darnell Washington?
No, not really any updates today. He did going against Casey in the competition period, which I don't really know what you're learning too much from putting Casey up against Darnell Washington. Washington did get called for OPI in that session, but had a nice little wide nod, little separation and burst versus Casey. But that was a drill and period slanted to the offense, so not going to make too much out of it.
All right, much of the same on the offensive line as the changes that happen following the changes that happened on Tuesday.
Right. Yeah. Same thing. Status quo from yesterday. Troy Fautanu working first team right tackle throughout practice. Dan Moore Jr. and Broderick Jones splitting first team left tackle work. Moore would almost always go in first for at least the first 2 reps, and then Jones would come in after. Jones was essentially also the second team left tackle because Dylan Cook continues to work second team right tackle. Only real shifts because, say, Malu practiced today, you weren't getting Anderson and McCormick splitting first team left guard work, and you weren't getting McCollum playing second team right guard because you're back to normal on the lines there. So that was the only difference. In terms of the quality of play and performance, I didn't get a great feel today. Again, O-line, I thought they opened a ton of holes in the run game. I don't know who individually, who did that or who didn't do that. Saw Anderson get out in space on a screen that, helped spring a Champlin long run after there. So that was nice. But just overall, the O-line, I thought, did well today.
And once again, I don't want to get too deep into what Mike Tomlin had to say. We've got plenty of time to talk about that before the game Friday night there as part of the Friday podcast. But Mike Tomlin was asked specifically on if he wants to see Broderick Jones work at both tackle spots. His answer was he has been. So it's reasonable to expect that to continue. Yes. So, we can look forward to probably seeing Broderick Jones playing both tackle spots Friday night.
I imagine they'll start Dan Moore Jr. at left tackle and Broderick Jones right tackle for the first drive, and then run maybe 2 series of Dan Moore at left tackle, and then once he's done, they'll shift Jones over to left tackle and play Fautanu at right tackle. That's my expectation for how things will go.
All right. Anything else to add about the offensive line?
Nope, that's all for the O-line.
All right. What do you have on our defensive line?
Mr. Versatile is always that one I love to deem somebody with that title, and this year it might be Logan Lee, the rookie 6th-round pick out of Iowa. He's really done it all. He's played base end, both spots. He's played defensive tackle, and he's long snapping on the side, and the occasional rep in special teams period. Didn't do that today. They only worked on kickoffs. He's on field goal protect as a blocker when he's not long snapping, and even playing some nose tackle today when lines got thin because Fehoko went down, and behind Benton, don't really have any other. You have Adams too, but I think Benton had some limited reps today, so I know there was at least one snap with Lee in the middle of that Okie front, that 3 down front. So Logan Lee has really kind of done it all this training camp.
I think I spotted somewhere in an email to us wanting an update on what the camp Loudermilk's having.
It's been, I'd say, quiet, but steady. It's been high floor, low ceiling, I guess, to describe it. He's strong. He's held the point of attack against the run. There's really not been that impact play as a pass rusher. There's not much there. He doesn't get a ton of chances to do so. So it's been a fine camp, but it's not been gaudy, which I wouldn't have really expected out of him anyway.
All right. Larry Ogunjobi look healthy?
Yeah, he's had a good camp, and that's just a big thing, Dave, is him being healthy. Him having a good camp is fine and all well and good, and you want to see it, but it's really about him avoiding those nagging injuries that have kind of bothered him really his entire Steelers career. So knock on wood, he stays healthy. I'll be happy.
And has Beef Wellington Prevleon cooled down any? Has the meat gotten cold?
I think it's been out
we're delirious.
On the table there for a little bit. I mean, yeah, he's gotten opportunities. It's maybe not been as, flashy, my notes the last couple of practices. These things ebb and flow, but he's still a guy I think that's trying to gun for a practice squad spot.
All right, what you got on inside linebacker today when you include a new body in there?
Yeah, I felt Mark Robinson was pretty active. Tyler Medikevich made some plays. Peyton Wilson has really looked good in those one-on-one competition coverage drills, and those are tough for the defense. They are so insanely slanted for the offense. There is no rush. You're defending the entire field. There is no help. It's just, one-on-one. it's hard to knock a guy for allowing a catch, but Wilson has got to have 2 or 3 interceptions in that drill over training camp. Had one today, undercut a route for Jalen Warren. So it's not always been perfect for Wilson in those drills, but I don't expect it to be. But he's made some plays in the football. So just watching him anticipate, jump, close on the football, that kind of closing speed that he has, the anticipation, you get to kind of feel some of that in those true one-on-one environments. And it's been on, I think, pretty full display.
All right. What do you have about outside linebacker?
Yeah, not a ton today. Kyron Johnson has made some noise. Again, line's kind of thin there. DeMarvin Leal really has kind of worked as an outside linebacker in individual period. He was working with the edge guys, with Denzel Martin and all the players there, TJ Watt, etc. So I don't know how I feel about that. I've talked about that a time or two. This whole back and forth outside backer, defensive lineman. But Leal still made some plays, and that's been good. Definitely one of the top guys I want to see in Friday's game against Houston.
All right. Secondary. Wrap it all together with the corners
sure.
and the safeties.
Slot corners making plays, as Mike Tomlin says. Big guys run, little guys hit. Little guys were hitting today, despite the offense's success in the run period overall. Had 2 good tackle for losses on back-to-back plays, actually, from Thomas Graham Jr., who's having a really strong camp, and Graylin Arnold, who's coming back full, and that's been good to see. Arnold has made plays as well, so that's been nice to see those small guys get in there. I want to see more run defense from Beanie Bishop. Not to say it's been bad, but I just want to get a better evaluation of that. Don't have a whole lot of data on that. I think he's a decent tackler, but I want to see him make some plays against the run versus Houston. But those slot corners, we talk about Bishop a lot, but the guys behind have been active in Graham and Graylin Arnold.
All right. Talk about Watts.
Yeah, my one note on Ryan Watts. I mean, he's big, he's long, he's physical, but there is going to be that line he can't cross. And in that one-on-one competition period, he had a good breakup on Pat Frymuth on an attempted back shoulder, but then got flagged twice on his next 2 reps. One against Rodney Williams. I forget the other. Might have been Matt Sokol, but that's a guy that's going to have to walk that line a little bit better to not be penalized. Wasn't penalties an issue for him at Texas? I think it was. And so still working on that here in the NFL.
All right. Do you have any special teams notes today?
Working on kickoffs. Let me pull up my notes here if I can find out what the return teams were. John Rice Plumlee, Jonathan Ward, then later Plumlee and Calvin Austin. Also Jacob Copeland getting some looks, Scotty Miller getting some looks, Dajon Edwards getting some looks. There's a mix of people. Again, I think Plumlee will do it. I think you give Austin the chance, knowing that he's got a good chance to make your 53. So you'd like to get eyes on that. We all know Patterson will be that guy whenever he's activated off of NFI. May get Ward a look there as well. I'd like to see Scotty Miller get an opportunity back there with his speed. And then in terms of the coverage team, defensive linemen continue to get some work there. Logan Lee, another thing he can do is at least potentially be tried out on the coverage team. And DeMarvin Leal looks pretty good out there running, close in that space. And Isaiah Lattimore also getting a couple of reps on the coverage team. So I really want to see the bodies and the people they use when Pittsburgh's kicking off here Friday.
All right, as we start to wind this one down, give me a couple. You got about 2 or 3 notable things that you observed today that sticks in your head.
Yeah, just the overall success for the run game and back-to-back days. That typically there's ebbs and flows, and if the run defense struggles one day, there's probably an emphasis on that overnight, and you try to correct that the next day. And I think the run game has been consistent the last 2 days. Again, Calvin Austin making plays. That's been good to see. Need to stack those things, obviously, but he's a guy that's had a relatively quiet camp. I thought what Mike Tomlin said today about Scotty Miller, and that's a guy I don't talk about much, but he has been. My notes really kind of reflected consistent, steady. He's a good route runner. The speed is certainly real. He's got good hands. Just kind of doing everything that you'd ask this guy to do, playing inside out. That's not a takeaway of the day. Just kind of a thought as I'm rambling through. But yeah, I think Austin, the run game, and the slot corners making plays are my takeaways.
All right. What are you expecting for the practice on Thursday, the day before the game?
As in a padded practice?
Yeah, unpadded, and generally is it a little bit lighter in nature? Is it, just tone? What do you remember about these practices before games?
I'll have to go back and check. Your intuition says it's going to be lighter, but I think I have in my head that they've had some more physical practices even the day before games, where I've gone into some of these moments in the past and said they're probably going to be light today, you get a game tomorrow. But I think there's been years where they have been physical, and they're allowed to be in pads tomorrow. That you can't be in pads more than 3 straight days, but you had Monday the off day and pads Tuesday and today Wednesday, so you could be in pads tomorrow. I think they probably will be in pads tomorrow. They'll probably work on a lot of situational football as they continue to do that, but probably really emphasize those things. They've been running 2-minute drills the last 2 practices to end practice. Pittsburgh's 2-minute drill today failed, by the way. Plumlee could not really get the offense past the 35, 40-yard line of the defense. So, yeah, I think you may be surprised how physical Thursday is.
All right, and I forgot to ask you to recap 7 shots, and I guess there was a little bit of unsureness about the score.
Yeah, for me, my perspective, even with the refs there, I'm still a little unclear on one rep. But the first one here out of 13 personnel, Najee Harris, carry left side for a touchdown. Second play, a nice throw from Fields to Austin, another catch he had. It was a really good throw by Fields between 2 defenders on kind of an out or corner out left sideline. Next one was Wilson coming in. That's the out route I referenced earlier to Van Jefferson, where the ball came out before Jefferson got his head around and the pass was incomplete. Next one, I think, was the controversial one where Jaylen Warren got a carry. The O-line pushed him in. Looked like a touchdown. I think one ref called it a touchdown. One ref didn't. I think overall the consensus, the decision was touchdown, so we'll go with that. Next one, Fields scrambling up the middle for a touchdown, but I give that to the defense, as you all well know. 6th play was Michael Pirine with an easy touchdown. Good blocks by Jack Coletto and Des Fitzpatrick. And the last one was Aaron Champlin, right side for a touchdown. So I'm going to go 5-2 offense winning the day.
All right. Let's see. One more question for you. When will this Brandon Ayuk stuff come to an end?
Hopefully soon. I don't know. Do you have any feel? You followed this today more than I have.
No, I'll just tell you what I put out on Twitter right before we got on here. The general consensus that I'm getting from the major media, insiders and outsiders, put all those in quote, insiders and outsiders in quotes, is that the consensus is that he'll ultimately land in Pittsburgh. And as far as when this will come to a head, none of them seem to know. And consider that your update until the next 15 minutes when the next update comes in.
We should mention, again, for what it's worth, Jerry Dulac says that if a deal happens and the deal is not finalized according to him, which matches the general insider reporting, a player would not go back to San Francisco from Pittsburgh. In other words, Pittsburgh would not be trading a player to the Niners. You assume that's only going to be then your draft picks going back. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, and that's plausible. You know, I think we kind of talked about that on we only threw out names of potential names that people were talking about. But yeah,
and the only one that really made sense was James Daniels, because if not him, what player could you really get back the Niners are going to care about to make a deal happen?
All right. Anything else to leave these folks with? We got it here?
I think it's good to wrap things up. One more practice Thursday and game on Friday.
All right. Let's see. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. If you want an ad-free version of the site, find the ad-free button in the navigational bar and go that way. Alex and I will be back Thursday evening with a wrap up of the Thursday training camp practice. There will be also a Friday morning regular edition of the Terrible Podcast as well too. We'll help kind of get into previewing the preseason game, talk more about what Mike Tomlin had to say on Wednesday. So within that, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2024 with Dave and Alex.